Amphibians were the first vertebrates to occupy dry land. During their evolutionary history, they have adapted and diversified more than any other animal group. The many species of amphibians found in the Nature Park Prealpi Giulie includes the anurans, tailless amphibians such as toads and frogs, and tailed species called eurydiles, including newts and salamanders. Most of the species present in Italy are able to lead a life between an aquatic and a terrestrial existence, from the valley bottoms to the tops of the coldest peaks. Along the park's high-altitude trails, especially on wetter days, you may encounter the alpine salamander, an extraordinary species perfectly adapted to this extreme environment. The absence of water and exposure to continuous changes in temperature have forced it to adopt incredible reproductive tactics. Their gestation period is one of the longest in the animal kingdom and may take up to 4 years. At the moment of birth, the young are already fully formed. Developing completely while inside the mother, at birth they are perfectly independent and ready to face life on land, a rarity for an amphibian. Dropping down, we meet the fire salamander, a very common species found throughout the park's valleys, especially after the rain. This species is mostly terrestrial. In spring, however, the gravid females search out well-oxygenated streams in which to give birth, releasing up to 70 well-developed larvae into the waters. Towards the end of summer, their livery changes, their gills regress, and their metamorphosis is complete. The young salamander is now perfectly adapted to life on land. It can breathe as needed, both through its lungs and through its skin. There are 3 newt species present in Friuli Venezia Giulia. The smooth newt, with an elongated head, a tail as long as the body, and the sides of its belly covered with a series of spots. The Italian great crested newt is larger. During the breeding season spent in the water, the males sport a prominent crest along the back, which regresses when they return to their terrestrial existence. The females and the young can be identified for their characteristic yellow dorsal stripe. Finally, we come to the alpine newt, the only species of the 3 present in the park. During the breeding season, the male sports his beautiful colours. The female is decidedly larger, but less showy. The belly, in both sexes, is a pale orange colour. At the end of the long hibernation period, alpine newts make for the water, where courtship rituals begin. The male, vibrating his tail, conveys small streams of pheromone-laden water towards the female. He then releases a spermatophore, which the female collects in her cloaca, starting the fertilization process. After a short incubation period, the females lay up to 200 eggs per season, sticking them individually to the leaves of aquatic plants. The embryo is beginning to develop. After about a month, we can witness the hatching of the larvae. The little newts slowly undergo metamorphosis. Towards the end of summer, they are finally ready to face life on land. Newts are predatory, feeding on invertebrates, larvae, insects, and even the eggs of other species. The water and spring temperatures also awaken the common frogs, which gather in pools on the bends along small rivers and in alpine ponds created by graziers. Here, the males meet to form their so-called leks, arenas in which they sing. When females rush to the mating call, the males promptly grab them at chest height. A few hours later, spawning takes place, and eggs are immediately fertilized by the males. A few weeks after the eggs are laid, myriad of small larvae begin to free themselves from their see-through envelopes. Soon, the outer gills disappear. In this phase, the tadpoles are very voracious, feeding mostly on plants and on any decaying organic debris. The laws of nature, however, mean that even tadpoles themselves represent an important link in the food chain. Two months later, the tadpoles complete their metamorphosis and turn into small frogs. From this moment on, they will lead a life on land that may last for several years before reaching sexual maturity and returning to water again for reproduction. The valley's river bends and the alpine ponds are also important breeding sites for the common toad. Its reproductive cycle is quite similar to that of the common frog. In spring, males and females mate in still waters. The females lay eggs in the form of long, gelatinous filaments, which are immediately fertilized by the male. Copulation lasts for some time, and the toads may remain in their embrace until the last filaments has been fertilized, and even after. During their life on land, toads are purely nocturnal animals, always vigilant and in search of food. In the area surrounding the park, we can also see other species such as this beautiful European green toad. And the shy Italian tree frog, the males of which spend their spring nights raucously calling in order to attract the females. Small and shy, the park also plays host to the yellow-bellied toad. This is an aquatic species that is easy to spot even during the day. Its back is covered with warts ending in black spines, from which, if threatened, it can secrete a bitter, irritating and poisonous foam. The toad's yellow-orange belly with blackish-grey spots acts as a chromatic deterrent to intimidate a possible predator in case of attack. The yellow-bellied toad is not a very ecologically demanding species and can be encountered on the banks of small rivers, in alpine pools, as well as in peat bogs. At the beginning of autumn, especially with the first frosts, the life cycle of amphibians undergoes a further change. They definitively abandon the water, looking for more suitable places to spend the winter. Protected from the weather, and especially from frosts, they slow down their activity and enter a state of hibernation, which will allow them to survive the extreme weather conditions until the following spring. Amphibians. These are animals that lead a life dependent on complex and delicate strategies, and even the smallest environmental or climatic disturbance may prove fatal for them. The protection and respect of their habitat and the development of a better understanding of these species are fundamental to safeguarding their survival, so that we can continue to enjoy the privilege of observing these extraordinary creatures with wonder.